There we go. Great. So welcome back to our podcast, You're Beautiful with Dr. Leah. And today we have Joanna Kelly. And I've been really looking forward to this. And my kids were looking forward to this because
No.
you're like our celebrity. And yes, you guys all will have to check Joanna out. I will put all your hashtags and everything else. But first of all, tell a little bit about yourself, also where you are based, because I'm talking to people all over the world. So, and people can
That's
guess by your
amazing.
accent, but still.
Yes. Oh, well, I'm Jo and I'm from England. Yeah, and I'm in Liverpool at the moment, but I'm from all over the place really. I've actually just come back from living in the Caribbean. I lived there for 5 years. So this was my first winter in England for 5 years. So it was a bit of a shock.
I know. Why did you even come back? Oh
I'm not
no.
really sure. I haven't got the answer to that. It felt like a good reason at the time, but I'm not sure now.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'll go back somewhere warm. Any like now.
I know, right? I
Being in
do miss that
Chicago.
ocean.
I know.
Oh
I know.
yes. So you don't with Chicago, is it what kind of weather is that all year round, or is it seasonal?
No, it's actually season. So I can't complain. Summer's amazing, spring is great, autumn is
That's
beautiful.
good.
It's just the winter is like you just want to crawl in bed and never come out for
Me.
2 months. So yeah, no, so it's no, that's great. So I know you talk about skin positivity and you started a lot of things. Can you talk a little bit about your own journey, and then we'll come to
Yeah,
where you
sure.
are. And I really, and I speak from my heart, I love what you do with your Instagram and how you like, I know I'm obsessed. So
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you, Leah. Well, I am a long time struggler with acne. I've had it for 15 years, and right now it's like the clearest it's ever been. So I'm really in a good place. But it's taken me, like I say, 15 years to get here. It started when I was a teenager, and now I'm in my 30s. So it's for me it was just the psychological impact that had, like living with a skin condition. And I think it got to about having it for 13 years. I tried all like the conventional methods of getting rid of it, and it had always been like quite a big secret that I'd been carrying around as well, because I work in the beauty industry. So makeup was part of my uniform, and I made it sure that I always looked perfect, or what everyone expected me to look like. And that was quite mentally exhausting in itself. So although a lot of my colleagues knew that I had issues with my skin, I always became like the person that everyone was trying to fix. So I had quite a lot of unsolicited advice about my skin. And then when it came to me giving skincare advice to other people, I felt a little bit of a fraud because I couldn't figure out what was going on with my own skin. So I had all of like these kind of internal struggles going on in both my work life and also in my home life, because at home I was concealing my skin from my partner. So he didn't know that I actually had any problems with my skin at all. And again, that was just really exhausting to maintain that kind of image around him, like in our private life, and at a time where I'm supposed to be like in my happy place and in a comfortable space, safe space as well. And it wasn't. Everywhere I was just kind of carrying around this like paranoia of, is my acne going to get exposed in this scenario? If I do this, will my acne get worse for doing that? And it became like quite all consuming. So about 13 years ago, at year 13, so a few years ago now, I was just thinking that I couldn't maintain concealing my skin like this anymore, because it really did start to affect me psychologically. And also keeping the secret from my partner as well. It just felt like I wanted him to see the real me.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a bit of a breakthrough, and at that point my skin was also at the best it had ever been. So I had like mainly a lot of breakouts just like round my jaw area, but my forehead was quite clear. And yes, I just kind of like confided in him and just said, this is how I'm feeling about my skin. I can't keep concealing it the way I have been around you, because I don't think it's going to get any better if I keep hiding it from you. And then when he was like my biggest cheerleader, it allowed me to think about maybe at some point going to work without wearing any makeup. So that was also an amazing step, and also something that I never thought in the 13 years previously that I would ever be able to achieve. So yeah, I decided that I was going to make a real effort to kind of really defy my insecurities, basically, because although he'd kind of given me the green light and said, I'm here for you, I'm going to support you, it was still me that kind of had to still go out and face people that had known me looking a certain way all my life, or all of the time that they'd known me, to then not looking like that person anymore. And there was quite a big contrast, and as much as it was definitely not helped by this kind of mental struggle that I was having, this internal struggle, and the emotions that it had formed because of living with it for so long, people were still shocked when they saw me. So I did have to kind of like mentally prepare myself for that, be prepared to have conversations about my skin. And yeah, it kind of took like a good year for me to feel really confident in my skin as the way it was while I was around other people. But I got there, and when I did, I wanted to like share that with other people, because I know there's so many people that feel so trapped by their skin. And a lot of the time, I think for me, a lot of my physical barriers with my skin and actually being able to do anything was just the way it made me feel stopped me making any progress. So while I could have helped some of my clients with their skin, I couldn't help myself because I was just too consumed by it, and too consumed by the kind of the everyday emotional part that it had as well, not just the actual physical process of getting rid of a skin condition. So yeah, it's just lots of different pressures coming from other people, coming from me. And that's when I started my account on Instagram that you've been following. So I called it Beautiful by Breakfast just because of the way that for so many years I'd made sure that I was beautiful, in inverted commas, by breakfast. So I made sure that I was exactly how everyone expected to see me before anyone else woke up. So I'd make sure that I ran to the bathroom in the morning and I conceal my acne before my husband woke up, and I'd do it obviously before I went to work as well. So I never left the house without makeup on, even if it was to do some really mundane things that I'm sure a lot of other people wouldn't consider putting makeup on for. I would, because that's how trapped I felt. So yeah, I've been doing that for 3 years now. I've been in the last year a lot more dedicated to it, and kind of trying to be there for other people and support them in that transition of going from wearing full coverage to exposing their acne as well. And started the Pores Not Flaws movement as well, which is, I think we're living in an age now where filters are like a massive part of our world. So a lot of people are starting to feel trapped behind filters, and like they're misrepresenting themselves online. So they're also not seeing pores very much in advertisements and, like I say, on social media. So a lot of people are getting a very warped perception of what skin looks like. So as an esthetician, that's quite hard, because I need to manage people's expectations of thinking, well, you know, you can minimize your pores with these products, but you realize you're never going to get that smooth skin filtered effect that I think is what everyone's kind of striving for. So yeah, just trying to share the psychological implications of social media filters as well.
Oh my God, this is like such a powerful story. And I think seriously, because you are such a, like in real life, it's the first time we're meeting, such a representation of what you are on your Instagram. And when you and I know I've been obsessed, so I've been watching. When you watch, you see so much positive energy, but also so much empowerment, like that hardcore empowerment coming out. And when I look at you at Instagram and you share the story, I would never even think of that you felt like, because all you show is confidence, I feel. So confident. And And that's why and thank you so much for sharing. And, you know, I speak with many people also with acne, and I think perception is, oh, it's kind of, you're a teenager, you have it, you don't have it when you grow up, which is completely not true, right? And I speak with a lot of people, like I just also shared with you earlier, with rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, right? And it's kind of the same thing, that you go, you cover your body, you plaster, you know, everything on your face, and like I had 3 months ago just also breakouts everywhere. Luckily, I'm now on biologic for psoriasis that works, that cleared everything up, but it works until it doesn't, right? And then you can say, hey, it's my skin, but it is super hard, right? It's still super hard. It's not like, oh, you have this realization and suddenly you're always empowered and feel confident.
No, it's not a switch, and it's something you have to work every day on. So
Every
even
day.
now, I still get moments, I call them sad skin days rather than bad skin days, because I think bad skin days just make you feel like you've done something wrong or your skin is wrong. And so I kind of try and stay away from that kind of vocabulary. And because mental health was such a big part of my skin problem, I think a sad skin day is a lot more appropriate way of kind of describing it, because you don't feel happy in your skin that day, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong by your skin or your skin is doing anything wrong by you. So yeah, I still have those days, and that's when I know that I need to do more self-love. So it might be that I've not been making enough time for myself, and that's why I'm starting to feel like this. Or it might be that I've maybe been following too many people on social media where I'm starting to compare myself to them. So I have to actively unfollow people that don't make me feel connected or represented. So yeah, there's lots of ways that I think we can slip into those sad skin days. And that is a lot to do with what we're exposed to online, but also in our physical world as well. If we've got people that are always bringing us down and not supporting us, then unfortunately those are the people that I choose to distance myself from as well, because it really does affect me.
Yeah, and you are so right. You know, I also was sharing with somebody last week. We just started our Instagram recently, and I did post, and we post fun pictures, but I posted a picture of me injecting a biologic in my legs, you know, because that's what you need to deal with, right? So and I had a lot of people writing to me saying, thank you for posting this is so great. It's very graphic because it's painful, it's a needle in your skin, so you need to. And they said, because I'm about to do it, so I know how to do it, can you share your experience privately? But I also had a lot of people unfollowing me, which is fine, because they said, oh, we just want to see beautiful pictures, this is too much. And that's okay, because I think those people wanted to see those, you know, kind of filtered, made up, which is nice to look at. And I said, you know, that's great, because you want to have your audience connect with you, and same with you, and only bring you up or bring each other up and not down. So so on those, I think, like, I have so many questions, like even with your partner, I was thinking, and I've struggled with that, like, how do I show my husband, my partner or my boyfriend, you know, when I was younger, what will they say when they see big plaque on my skin, you know, on my face or on my leg, or something that I could cover but can't cover anymore when you're in private? And no one mentioned this, but you mentioning this, I was thinking it is such a struggle in your private and personal life, right? And
it's
then
huge,
right? So it's, and then your partner probably said, oh my God, I always love you, right? Like,
yeah, it's like
reaction,
it wasn't even a big issue. He was just like, oh yeah, okay, well, yeah, if that's how it makes you feel, I'll support you. Because I kind of said at the same time, I really want to spend some time trying to figure out like why I'm getting these breakouts, because in the 13 years previous to that, I'd never actually asked the question, like, where are they coming from? Why am I still struggling with this? Because everything that I'd used hadn't worked. So I could only assume that there was this underlying cause that needed to be treated first. And it's strange to me as well that all the professional intervention that I've had, no one really ever took that approach with me. So yeah, it took a bit of me putting in the work, him saying that he would support me while I figured stuff out. And then he was just like, okay, so what do you want for dinner? It was just
That's
like
amazing. I love it. I love
so
it.
it's a conversation that I'd built up in my head for months and months, and procrastinated over, and if will he still love me if I tell him this, or if I reveal this part of me? And it was so much bigger in my head, and it was like a 1-minute conversation.
Yes, yes. And so, and I have a lot of questions, but like 2 questions in terms of, like you said, and I have these conversations all the time. Like, I know me going to dermatologist or a GI doctor because it's like eczema, psoriasis, it's autoimmune disease, and no one ever talked about mental health or self-confidence or all of these things. No one, everyone always talks light therapy, medication. Of course, medication is the biggest thing, which I know they're busy, but I feel when I speak with a lot of people, they say, I wish when I was 13 they talked to me, or I wish, like, I had it since I was 6 years old, right? I wish like somebody prepared me, right, for this journey. Like, and then you said there was something underlying, and all they would tell me, have less stress. I'm like, okay, great. How do I have less stress? That's nice. What did you find that helped you? And it might help now, but that might not help in a month. But what? Because a lot of people say, okay, I have acne. What is the cure?
Right, yeah, there is no cure, like, per se. Like, there's no one cure that fits everybody. And just back on to what you were saying about going to see different people and mental health never being brought up, I find that so unbelievable that it hasn't been addressed sooner. I think there's definitely more people now that are more aware of the effect that skin conditions can have on someone's mental health. But I went to every single doctor appointment and cried. Like, I was clearly in a lot of distress. I can't emphasize enough how much it affected me. So I can't believe that it wasn't picked up sooner by anyone, really. To live with that kind of thing for over a decade, and for no one to have kind of said, oh, this must be really impacting you, or even just asking the question, just want to check to make sure you're okay everywhere else. Like, is it affecting your life in any other ways? In terms of the cure, I think that's a lot of the problem, and also kind of an indication that there's definitely some kind of psychological issue as well. Because if people are just looking for a cure, people can get very hung up on, I just need to find something that works. Right. Why can't I find, I've tried everything. And that's what I hear in my DMs all the time. I've tried everything and nothing works. And I think we all probably get to that space, that kind of moment where we literally feel so defeated. And then when we do try something new, we kind of assume that it's going to fail before we've really given it a chance. So then we kind of half use something. We maybe don't give it the right amount of time, or maybe we don't use it as often as we should, or maybe we're not using the right amount, or maybe we use too much because we want quicker results. So we kind of have this kind of mentality that if we use more quickly, then it will work better, then cause more problems, and then you think, oh, this is rubbish, it's not working, it's actually causing me more issues. So I think there's so much that our emotions can really impact the way that we're actually thinking about how to logically treat our condition. And I was given directions of how to use things by the doctor, but bearing in mind at the beginning I was a teenager, so you could give a teenager instructions about a lot of things and they're not probably going to do it to the way that you've said. So that's just like, they've gone from using nothing on their skin to all of a sudden being directed on, how to use something quite precisely. And I know that the things that I use, I probably could have had success with them, but I didn't have a skincare routine in conjunction with what I was using. So the stuff that I was using was very drying on my skin, and I was told just to put it on the areas where I had breakouts, but I put it all over my face. So then of course my whole face was red, my whole face was dry, my whole face was sensitive, and all of a sudden I've gone from just having patches of spots to now like my whole face being angry and upset with everything that I'd been doing, and of course never moisturizing. So I thought, you know, my lack of education at the time, I was like, okay, so I definitely don't want any more moisture. So I just did drying. And I think a lot of us fall into that same trap, and also that same mentality very early on with a skin condition, because it's like a lot of the time comes out of nowhere. So you've gone from having no insecurities, feeling relatively confident, and then all of a sudden overnight you've got something that is causing you a lot of emotional distress, and you've got to think about, oh, what is so and so going to say about this? I've got this event coming up, am I going to be able to do that? You know, whether it be at school and it's picture day, or you've got a party at the weekend, and there's this mentality of, I need it to be fixed by this time. And quite often it's like within the same week or within the same month. And although a skin condition can pop up quite quickly, like seemingly to you, it may have been underlying and brewing for quite some time. And so people kind of have this mentality, if it's come up so quickly, it can leave just as quickly. And unfortunately, this, you know, the skin is amazing, but it isn't able to turn over that quickly. So it is definitely something that is a process and something you have to kind of stick with and have faith in and believe that it's going to work for you. So that mentality of just trying to do all these quick fixes is a lot of the reason why a lot of us kind of spiral into really drastic measures that actually cause a lot more damage, cause a lot more long-term issues, and make something a lot more complex to treat, rather than just what was initially maybe adolescent skin or stress related. It's now evolved into something quite different because of all the crazy things that you try all at once, all these different cures that you think you're doing. And of course, what works for me might not necessarily work for someone else. And I think that is the hardest lesson to learn, because a lot of the time I would listen to a lot of the unsolicited advice that I received purely out of desperation as well. I was like, okay, I don't really want people to keep coming up to me and just giving me random advice about my skin, but at the same time I'm not really in a position to turn anything down either, because I'm so desperate to get rid of this. I'll try it. So if they told me to do something really horrendous, then I probably would have done it, because if that was the state of my mental health at the time, and I just wouldn't have questioned it. So I think it's quite dangerous to be looking for a cure, because the real question is that you should be asking yourself is, where has it come from? That is a much better question to ask yourself than what is the cure to this. Because for me, for example, it wasn't just one thing, and I don't think it's probably with a skin condition like eczema as well. Yes, autoimmune disease, but I also think like there's lots of different things that can help or will help to reduce the effects of it. So like with acne, for example, you kind of have to, you don't realize you're doing it at the time, but you kind of have to create the perfect environment for acne bacteria to thrive. And there's lots of different components to that. And yes, stress is actually one of them for me. I do definitely flare up when I'm stressed, but like you say, like it's very hard to take stress away. So yes, we can do as much as we can there, but that's definitely one of the things. And I think not feeling like I had to conceal was a big amount of stress like taken away from me, and that definitely I think was perhaps the main trigger of stress that really could let me move on with my skin, and not cause me so many flare-ups. But then the other thing for me was definitely gut related, because of all of the medication that I'd taken over the years. Like my gut was in a really bad way, so I needed to do a lot of work there on replacing some gut bacteria and just fueling my body a bit better as well, because I definitely wasn't that respectful with what I ate. Drinking more water, I think everyone needs to stay better hydrated. I think we're all probably drinking too little. And then with like my skincare routine, I changed things up completely. And I actually went to see a skincare professional instead of taking my own skincare advice, because it hadn't been working for me for that long. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to get, I work in a different side of beauty. I work in the spa world. So I actually wanted to go and see someone that was more in the kind of medi spa domain, and that helped me. I was using beautiful products before my skin, but it just wasn't right for a skin condition like acne. So I did a complete overhaul of my skincare and saw immediate change. Breakouts weren't going, it wasn't going to like stop me getting breakouts completely, but it definitely kind of gave me a head start, I think, doing that. And so it really was like a combination of all of that stuff all at once, all of the time, and being really dedicated to staying on that for, I think it was about a good year, that it paid off. And then I started seeing my skin clear massively, and now I break out still occasionally when I do things that I know aren't good for my skin, because I know they're my triggers. But now that psychologically I'm so much in a better place, I almost like choose if I'm going to break out or not. So I'm like, okay, so if I eat that, I know it's my trigger and I'll break out. Do you want to eat it or not? And 9 times out of 10, I'll say yes. And being in control of when I break out, it doesn't have the same psychological effect, because before I was trying so many different things for my skin and thinking, you know, oh, this is going to cure my acne. This is going to cure my acne. So every time it didn't, and then I would break out again, it destroyed me every single time, because of that feeling of being so out of control, even though you're trying so hard. So now I try really hard, but I know where it's coming from. And so a breakout doesn't consume me in the same way that it used to.
And I think that's what you just said. I think it's one of the biggest advice that you could give and help you can give to anyone with actually acne or eczema or anything else. Number one is there's no cure, and number two, really focus on your own body, right? Like what works for you might not work for some other person. Good skin.
I say there's no individual there's no like all fits one cure. Obviously you can get rid of your skin condition. I don't want to like make people feel like they're going to have to live with it for forever. I just mean, that there's definitely something you can do, but it's not necessarily going to be, for example, the exact same way that I cleared my acne. Like you're going to have to go on your own journey, and also be really accountable for it as well, because like I said, had all these different doctor's appointments for 13 years over my skin. And every time I went to an appointment, like, okay, so what are you going to give me that's going to fix this? And never did I put in the work myself. I thought putting in the work for me was doing a good skincare routine and taking whichever pill they had given me. And I thought I'd done my bit then. But actually, it took a lot more from me. I actually needed to be really willing to make the changes necessary. And I think for a long time, again, because of the way my mental health was and because of the way I felt about my skin, I actually didn't come at it from the right angle. And I think, in that sense, I was kind of my own worst enemy, because I've been given a lot of advice over the years that I didn't take, and that was journaling, because I had irritable bowel syndrome, and I'd been told, if you do a food journal, you'll be able to maybe identify some patterns. And every single time a doctor told me that, I was just like, oh, they just don't know what to do with me. So they're just saying, write a journal. And I hated the advice. I thought it was just a waste of time. And I'm embarrassed to say now that, I did a 3-day journal and I already identified patterns in my breakouts, and that led me to seek the right professional help. So I had been quite stubborn about what I was prepared to do. I actually gave up dairy and sugar, refined sugar, for a year, out of investigation to see whether it made any difference to my skin. I also thought dairy might be one of my triggers, or at least I thought I had a food allergy, which was causing my cysts. And I had that confirmed with a doctor, that I had a naturopathic doctor. But she actually said that I had like 50 different allergies. So it was down to me to actually find out which one was responsible for my breakouts, if any. So that was again when I turned back to journaling, and I was like, okay, one of these food groups is making me break out. I'm pretty sure of it. I just have this feeling. And that is when I then, for the next like 3 to 6 months, gradually introduced all of those foods back into my diet after not having them in my system for a good few months. I then started very gradually bringing them back in, and that's when I started to see a pattern, because I didn't want to give up. A lot of people don't want to give up things. So people say to me now, oh, I really want clear skin, but I'm not prepared to give up this, and I'm not prepared to give up that. And that was my mentality as well. And now I've done it, I don't believe anyone should give things up, because if you're in the right place, you can still live a very happy life and do what you want. But if you do want to know where your breakouts are coming from, then you might have to temporarily give up some stuff. But I was told by this doctor, which I don't agree with, she said, you know, you're just going to have to cut all of that food out and just never eat it again. And I wasn't prepared to do that, because these 50 different foods was actually healthy things like different fruits, different vegetables. And it was going to make my whole life really challenging, having to avoid those foods every single time I ate out, or if I was cooking at home. Like, it was going to be really quite a big impact on my life. So and my husband's a chef, so he was not interested. He wasn't interested in that at all. So I knew that wasn't sustainable for me. So anyway, doing it and saying to myself, look, I'm going to do this for three months. I'm going to give it all up, but I'm going to do it with the mind that I will be introducing them back gradually. And now I know that it is dairy and eggs that I have a problem with. But like I say, it doesn't affect me in the same way now. So when people say I'm not prepared to give something up, I just want to say you don't have to give it up forever. It's just while you're trying to investigate what your body's trying to tell you. And then once you've found the answer, you then get to make a choice. Do you want to continue eating that or not? I get why people wouldn't want to eat, like when it comes to food specifically, why people wouldn't want to give something up if they don't know whether it's going to make a change or not. Because of course, like, why give something up if it may or may not do anything? But like for me, if you've got 100%, this is what it is, then yeah, it's just really nice to be in a position of power where you can say, you know what, I am going to make this decision. I am not going to eat it because I would like to have completely clear skin. And now I have almost clear skin. And that's because I chose not to give it up. And that's just me. And then some people might say, I can't believe, you know, you wouldn't want to get rid of your acne completely. But, you know, I just love eating what I want. And all the while it's not making me physically unwell.
I you know, this is you give so many advices. I'll have to like point them out. No, but seriously, you know, I think one of the biggest things what you also say, it's really that holistic approach, right? It's not just the medicine, or it's not just your stress regulation. It's food. It's also happiness, right? Compromising that some foods might work, some not, and it's not forever. I think all of that, and it's interesting when you go, and this is something what I always say, when you go to your doctor, they never talk about diet. You know, I went to my dermatologist and I said, well, maybe I should also look into gluten or look into dairy. And usually it's like, oh yeah, well, I don't know about that. You know, let's talk about medication.
Unfortunately, like, not any one professional knows, you know, because skin especially is so, there's so many different things that could impact it. If you go to see a dermatologist, all they can really talk to you about is the medicated side of skincare. They're not, I mean, I've met one dermatologist that has got a passion about cosmetic skincare. So she was able to say which brands that she really liked using in that sense. But I went to see a dermatologist, for example, they didn't give me any skincare advice. So they prescribed me Accutane, but I wasn't given any advice on how to actually, you know, look after my skin, which I think this is why it's such a broader subject, and why it's so confusing for people with a skin condition, because they think they're going to see the right person by going to see a dermatologist, and you are, but there's also other people that you need to go and see, and that's someone that can give you a good skincare routine. That's someone that can explain to you about what you're eating, because that may be playing a part. So a nutritionist or a dietitian or someone like that, or like I did, which was a naturopathic doctor. And unfortunately, it does take going to see quite a few different professionals to really get it right. But if you do that early on, then you can prevent having years and years of struggle like I did, which was, you know, 15 years. And then on top of that, you've also got, you know, if you wanted to go and see someone that could help you with, you know, psychological support as well. So when it comes to skin, there's just so many different levels of support that you need.
Yeah, well, and it is, like you also said, it is our largest organ, right? So, I mean, we should treat it as any other organ in the body. It's like it's your heart. If your heart is not doing the right thing, you immediately will go to the doctor. Skin is of course the same, and they talk a lot. Like we talk about microbiome, right? Like you talked about gut bacteria and flora, and we could talk for hours about it. But it's the whole mind, gut, skin a connection that they even talk now, that because a lot of these conditions, they are really coming from your own immune system or your gut, and then indirectly reflected in your skin, right? So
and I think emotions as well, because they say that your gut is very you know, emotional, and I know mine is, and so that also impacts the skin as well. So I really do think there's like such a big connection there. So when people are just, you know, they just ask for, oh, can you just tell me what you use on your skin and I'll use it too, like it doesn't work. No, it's completely individual. But I think, you know, I would never turn around to someone and say, you know, you need to do this yourself, or because it's great that people reach out for help, but I think also just to take ownership of your own journey and really like go through that process so that you're not alone, because there's so many of us that can kind of share our experience and say what we've done and tell you what's a waste of time and things not to listen to. But ultimately it's about finding, it's like almost like a recipe, and so many people have different taste buds, you know, what's nice tasting and what's not nice tasting. And it's the same with your skin. It is a certain recipe that is going to be completely unique to you. However, saying that, I think then it's really frustrating that we all receive such generic advice, like right from the beginning with acne. I feel like every single person I speak to about acne, they've had exactly the same kind of pattern of treatment when it comes to going to see a doctor. They've like been through like the same medication cycles as me. They've been struggling for a really long time. So it just kind of feels like for such an individual thing, it's really upsetting that we're all treated like so generically, because I think that is a big part of why so many people just don't really get anywhere, and why we all enter into this mentality of nothing works for me, and that makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, because if this treatment is so generic that it apparently works for everyone else but it's not working for you, it makes you just feel like you've done something wrong, or you can't be helped, and that you're some kind of special case that isn't gonna find it easy. And like, I think it's actually a really small percentage of people that actually get on really well straight off the bat with whatever medication is recommended to them initially. You know, there are those cases where someone can just go on a 2-week course of antibiotics and it can all clear up and they never have any problems ever again. But for the most of us, I think it is a case of it ends up being this really long journey, kind of cycle. And I just want to say as well, you know, I'm definitely not shaming anyone for taking medication, because for some people that is definitely the right way. I just think that had I done more of what I've just said alongside taking the medication that I was on, I would have not had the same length of struggle that I had, but I didn't know any of that at the time. I relied so much so on the medication that I didn't do any of the other work myself. So I feel like had I right from the beginning had all of that support that I've just said and all of that kind of holistic way of treating it alongside the medication that I was taking, I think I could have cracked it quite early on.
Yeah. And, you know, and you make such a great point that, you know, when I look back and I speak with my husband, so, you know, I'm a pharmacist and he's an immuno-oncologist and even though I studied in Europe, here in US, we are never taught when we're studying a holistic approach. It's very science-based, medication-based approach. It's like, this is the science behind it. This is how the skin reacts. This is what, and this is the medications. And of course, every day, every year, there's something new coming in. And this is the pattern. You try this, doesn't work. You go there, you go there, you go there, you go there. You never taught, and he and I talk about it all the time. Even now, like for us, it was already many years ago, that to start maybe with like referring to a nutritionist, right? Or referring to even psychologists, you know, like I would love to be able to talk when I was 14 and covered in psoriasis, right? And I think there's a lot of that what needs to change in the medical field, that we're not so medication driven, but really kind of holistically driven, right? And life is changing, and I feel the curriculum that they're studying also needs to change. And I speak with a lot of students, especially PharmD students, with the work I do. It's still the same. It's still the same, you know. And like you said, with my psoriasis journey, and I also have non-celiac gluten sensitivity journey, it was always like, try every steroid under the sun on your skin until it like cracks, and then go there, then go this oral. I'm like, no, it doesn't work. It makes me feel horrible. I'm mentally like sick, you know, until I had to say after 2 years, I'm depressed. They're like, oh, you're depressed? Like, yeah. They basically said, okay, let's try something else. And I'm like, why does it take so long, you know? And why is it always the same pattern? I know it's for the reimbursement purposes, but still we live in like, in a different world now. Let's think how we can change this.
Yeah, but then I guess as well with what you're saying about depression and stuff, and then you could take, because for example, I took contraceptive pill for my acne as well, but then you look at some of the side effects of some of the medication. Like can cause acne breakouts or breakouts. So it's like, but I'm taking it for the purpose of this. So it's really frustrating that every single time you take a piece of medication, there is a side effect that you may get. Those are very slim chances, but, you know, occasionally it does happen. And, you know, for me, with antibiotics especially, it really did impact my gut. I was on antibiotics for a year as a teenager.
That's a long time.
I just can't believe that was, anyone thought that was a good idea. And, you know, looking back now, I didn't question it, but it ruined me. And I just wish that someone had intervened. But alongside those antibiotics, I could have been taking a probiotic to kind of adjust or balance what was going on in my gut. But, you know, like you say, it's just, it hasn't moved on with the times. And I love science, and I feel like I'm a huge supporter of science over a lot of things, but at the same time, it doesn't account for the human being. And, you know, you can do all of these tests and these researches in laboratory conditions, but at the end of the day, a human is exposed to sun exposure, pollution, stress, emotional problems, and all of this stuff, all of these chemical reactions happening in the body that you can't test for in a lab. So that is why we don't have a set cure, because you can't account for all of these like little quirks that could happen with each individual. Yeah,
no, I fully agree. Oh my God, we could like speak for hours.
I know.
I said, oh, it will be 20 minutes. I've been going on, and you've been sharing so much. And I think it's so it will be so helpful for people who are getting acne or breakouts, or thinking how to deal with it, or hiding it from the world, to hear your story. So I guess, like, as my last question will be, what is your superpower?
Oh, confidence, definitely.
Yes, I thought so.
Yeah, even if like you don't feel it. A friend of mine said, just fake it until you make it.
Yes, I like that.
And yeah, and I just think that's such a good saying, because I had to really fake it for a really long time. I had to smile when I didn't feel like smiling. And, you know, when you smile, even if you're not feeling like it still releases those same endorphins in your body that actually make you feel happy. And then you actually start genuinely smiling. And when you smile, you make other people smile, and it makes you look confident, and then you start to feel confident. And I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't have, yes, I want to say, stopped giving F's.
Yes, good for you.
About what other people thought. And of course I still have that kind of, you know, every now and then those doubts creep in, and I start thinking, oh, what are the, you know, what are they going to say? Are they looking at my skin? And you know, I think you can't really go so many years with having insecurities like that and for them to be eradicated completely. But yeah, it's so transformative. I feel so liberated for getting to this place, and every now and then I have to kind of reflect on who I used to be, where I used to be with my skin, and how it used to like completely control me. And you know, when that year 13 that I keep talking about with acne, oh my God, it felt so good to finally say, do you know what, I'm gonna do this for myself. I'm going to find out why I have these breakouts, and I'm gonna do this for me. And I've had all of this intervention in the past, all of these people trying to like help me from afar, but you know, I'm gonna do this. And that made me feel so powerful, to think that I was the one in control, and that I was actually going to take ownership over it. And when I actually got to that place where I'd figured it out by myself, and got to this point now of feeling like so liberated and so normal and so human, and yeah, really connected with all those people that have felt exactly the same way as me, you know, there's no better feeling.
And it's so empowering, right? Yes.
Yeah, it really is. So that's why, like, whenever I think of someone like who I used to be, who is saying no to invitations from friends, and who's choosing to stay indoors because of the way they feel about their skin, or they're not entering into new relationships, or they're not going for that new job because they're worried about, you know, going for an interview with their skin the way it is, or whatever, like, that's who I'm here for, because I want people to know that, you know, there is life beyond acne, and you know, it's so amazing when you can just get out the other side.
Yes. Oh, I love it. It's been so amazing. I will and people can find you at your Instagram, right? Beautiful by Breakfast. And
I'm there.
So I will definitely mention this, and like I said, it will be on all our platforms, and I really hope to bring you back, so we can, I feel like there are so many things we can discuss in much more detail. So I will also ask everyone who will be listening to, you know, put their questions, and definitely go look you up. Beautiful by Breakfast.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if you need any help, you can just message me, and you know, I'm always there for anyone that wants to talk.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful. Yes, meeting you, and you are, as you are on your Instagram, so confident and so positive. I feel it. So thank you so much. And I will be in touch very soon, and I hope to speak with you again.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for watching and listening.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Bye.